Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. The Qatar Sprint race has just finished, and I have to say it was incredibly dull. There were a few points that were quite fun to watch, but on the whole, it was incredibly dull, to be honest. It was just one big DRS train from start to finish. It was a procession, to be quite frank. There was a few moves here and there. On the whole, I would say it was quite a meh session. That being said, there are some nice things for us to talk about. So let's dive into them. First of all, well done to McLaren. Well done to McLaren for securing a 1-2. It is very much needed in their fight with Ferrari for the Constructors' Championship. And they had great teamwork. Let's be honest. It was a great outing for McLaren. They had a great start. They worked together perfectly, those two boys, to maintain that 1-2, even though Piastri was really put under pressure from George Russell pretty much throughout the whole race. Did I expect Norris to kind of pull away a bit more? Yeah, I kind of did. I thought he would maybe extend the gap quite a bit, but I understand why he didn't. Piastri was kind of struggling out there. Norris, to be fair, did say he was struggling himself. His tyres were beginning to go. And he did just kind of keep himself, close to Oscar to give Oscar the DRS so that down that back straight. Because, well, the only real overtaking point was turn one. And Russell just managed to cling on to the DRS. But thankfully for Oscar, Norris did just keep him within DRS range. So he could, keep his positions. I have to say, I found that turn one being the only overtaking point really made the race incredibly dull. What I will say, it was very enjoyable to watch the cars going at such speed. It is such a fast flowing circuit and the cars look beautiful as they navigate it. I can appreciate obviously how demanding it is and all that kind of stuff, but pretty boring to watch. But as I said, great work from Norris just to aid Piastri. And an unexpected win for Oscar Piastri. I didn't expect he would win. I genuinely thought Norris would take the win. At the very last minute, he slowed right down and let Oscar through. And I was very confused at first. I actually thought at first it was team orders and I didn't really understand. And then I remembered Piastri did it for Norris in Brazil. So I kind of got it. But actually, the team were quite happy to let Norris finish first. They came over the radio and said, we're quite happy as long as we've got the 1-2 for you to take the win. And it was actually on Norris. A very lovely sign of respect from Lando Norris to slow down and give Oscar the win as a payback for Brazil, for Piastri doing the same for Brazil. I have to say it was fantastic teamwork from Norris and Piastri to secure that 1-2. And as I said, a huge sign of respect from Norris there. There's been some questions over Oscar and Lando's sort of relationship and whether or not it might be fracturing, especially after the likes of Monza, and obviously all the conversations about the papaya rules of it all and Oscar being asked to maybe concede positions and really do what needs to be done to help Lando in his championship fight. There was a lot of question marks over McLaren and, the whether or not Oscar's happy to do these things. And there was a lot of questions about whether they would play a team game and how things would go in the future because maybe McLaren wasn't quite making the right decisions and yada, yada, yada. But this is just showing that actually it's all just irrelevant now, to be honest. And as I said, a huge sign of respect from Norris. A very well done to McLaren for a 1-2. And I have to say that this puts them in a very good position for tomorrow's Grand Prix. I'm very excited to see what they can do in qualifying. But huge respect to Lando Norris for that. It's a sign of respect from him. And I have respect for that. As I said, George Russell coming home P3, he really put the work in to secure that. And he was fighting hard out there. So Be interesting to see what Mercedes can do tomorrow. Well, today for the Grand Prix and then in the race. Because I actually didn't think they'd be as good as what they are. And Hamilton obviously didn't have a great qualifying, but made it up in the race. He had a fantastic start to the race, climbing quite a good few positions. And I would say probably one of the best bits of racing we've seen this year was that little battle between Leclerc and Hamilton. How neither of them went off or made contact, it was beautiful. It was so, so beautiful. That sort of round turn 1, turn 2, not really a DRS overtake. DRS put Leclerc into the mix for that. And then just side by side, like proper wheel-to-wheel racing as Hamilton did his best to defend and Leclerc attacked. And it was amazing to watch. Utterly amazing. It was my favourite point of the race. My heart was beating fast, but it was the highlight for me of that race. I think the McLaren 1-2 is great, and I do think that little bit of respect shown from Lando Norris is lovely, but it is not my highlight. My highlight was that wheel-to-wheel action. It is phenomenal. Now, before we get on to the negatives, I will say, well done to Valtteri Bottas. Like, I understand he didn't score points, but he clung on to 12th. I say it puts him in maybe quite a good standing to potentially score a point this weekend. I know I keep saying that every time we sort of talk about Sauber and there's potentially a point coming, but fingers crossed, because I would like to see Valtteri finish the season with at least a point. Like, I generally don't want him to leave with no points. I would be quite sad about that. But well done to Bottas for clinging on to 12th. I'm excited to see what he can do. Now on to the negatives. And there was a few. Let's kick things off with Valtteri's teammate, Zhou Guanyu. Why the hell was he on a soft tyre? In what world did the strategists down at Sauber think that was a good idea? Like, who genuinely sat there and thought, do you know something? Let's stick them on a soft tyre. Like, the softs just, the graining on the softs is huge. They degrade so quickly. And I just don't understand the logic in that. I don't think there is any logic in that, to be honest with you. Why put him on a soft? It was actually quite painful to watch. He was so slow before they pitted him. Like, they had no choice but to pit him. There was no way they could leave him out there for the entire time. And he just really struggled. You could tell the tyres had just fallen off a cliff. And then they bring him in and stick him on a medium. Just put him on the medium. This is not difficult. Every other driver started the race on a medium. I do not understand why they stuck him on a soft. Clearly, it was the wrong option. Honestly, when I found out, when they were sort of talking tyres before the race began, and they were like, Zhou Guanyu's on a soft, and I was like, are you okay? What are you doing? What? It's the stupidest mistake I've ever heard. Utter nonsense. Like, that is just stupidity. That's like, remember when Ferrari stuck Leclerc on slick tyres in Canada when it was raining? That's like that level of stupidity. I just can't. It's so ridiculous to me. So obviously it just completely ruined his... There was no chance for him to do anything because he started on the soft. They had to bring him in. And then he obviously came out of the pits. He was 35 seconds behind. Use your heads. Like, what? Also, pretty poor performance from Liam Lawson, who lost 7 places in the opening lap. So not great from him. I have to actually say, really poor performance actually from both the RBs this weekend. Like, really... So far, anyway, really poor. Like, I actually expect Tsunoda to be fighting for points. I expect him to genuinely be wiping the floor with his teammate. And he actually performed worse. I mean, he qualified a lot worse, but terrible performance from both of them. Another team that didn't really have any real performance was Red Bull. Quite surprised. Well, let's talk about Max first. I'm quite surprised at how bad Max did. Like, I get he finished in the points, but it was the final point. He got 1 point. And I know it doesn't really matter for the championship because he's already won it, but I just didn't expect them to be as slow. And, like, he couldn't get past Nico Hülkenberg in a Haas. That's wild. That is cray. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused by the Red Bull performance, by Max's performance. And I don't know whether he's feeling really annoyed at it or whether he's just not that bothered, because it was radio silence from Max. So I don't even think he was that frustrated, or he was maybe that frustrated that he generally couldn't speak. Like, do you know when you're just so angry you can't talk? It could be that, or I think it's more just likely that he's just like, I really don't care. Like, I'm not arsed. Because it was radio silence from him. His teammate had a complete shocker, an absolute shocker. So he had a pit lane start. Him and Franco Colapinto both started from the pit lane. They had to do changes to the suspension on their cars, so they broke Parc Fermé, pit lane start. And I don't know what was going on at the start of that race, but when the light went green in the pits, Checo just didn't start. He just didn't move. And then finally went, and Franco Colapinto just went, shoom. It was so bizarre. I just don't understand it. I don't know whether he was distracted. Like, I don't know why he didn't just go when the light went green. But he lost a position in the pits from a pit lane start. He wasn't even fully on the track yet and lost a position. Jesus Christ. And he also wasn't that quick, to be honest. They brought him in for a front wing change. So it very quickly changed into a testing session for him, which for a team like Red Bull to be using this sprint race as a testing session is quite worrying. He just wasn't quick, and they're obviously trying some things to sort of get the best performance for the car, for the tomorrow's Grand Prix, qualifying later today, tomorrow's Grand Prix, but just a bit odd. Don't really know what's going down at Red Bull. And yeah, just a terrible performance from Perez. Again, with there's a reason why I'm re-signed, and honestly, show me the reason. Please tell me what the reason is, because I'm struggling. Like, I'm guessing a lot of it, one of the reasons is probably money. He does bring in a lot of sponsors, and he sells a lot of merch, and he has a very big fan base, and, you know, Mexico, all that jazz. Surely money can't be everything, right? Like, I just want to know what the reason is. I just really want to know, because it can't be on-track performance, because he's shite on track. Anyway, and then Ferrari. Not terrible looking race pace, but I think where they're struggling is quali. They're going to have to get their qualifying pace, like their one lap pace. They're going to have to get that better so that they can really attack in the race, because, as I said, it was beautiful racing, but their qualifying is just not great, so they're going to need to get a bit better on the quali. I don't know, they're just going to have to pull something out of the bag tomorrow, for qualifying later today, because it does look like we could be getting another McLaren 1-2 tomorrow, and if that happens, I believe they've got the championship. But Leclerc was looking quick. He was setting fastest laps, so we'll see what happens. And that is everything from a quite underwhelming sprint race, to be honest with you. As I said, it was more of a procession with a couple of quite spicy moves and a very lovely ending for McLaren, I have to say. That is everything from us. We'll be back after qualifying later on, which I'm very excited for, and we shall see how things are looking for tomorrow. I will see you after quali. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy qualifying. See you then. Love you. Bye.